Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel that takes you deep inside the San Francisco 49ers. I am your host, Jack Hammer. The 49ers wrapping up their final practice earlier today in preparations for their season opening game out in Pittsburgh week 1 against the Steelers. 49ers have a couple of guys on their practice report that we need to get to. The Steelers have one. And for the 49ers, there's a pair of starters that ended up on their final injury report for this game. Yesterday, we talked about Charvarius Ward, the 49ers starting cornerback, talked about how he missed practice yesterday due to a heel injury that he had suffered the day before. According to 49ers head coach Kyle Shanahan, Charvarius Ward is listed as questionable for Sunday's game at Pittsburgh. Again, 49ers cornerback Charvarius Ward listed as questionable for the 49ers in their season opener out in Pittsburgh. That's a big piece of information for the 49ers, especially when you look at the receivers that the Steelers have that they're going to be going up against, that they need to have the best that they can put out there on the defensive side. Now, Shanahan was asked about Charvarius Ward and his condition. According to, as the reporter asked him yesterday on the radio, he had mentioned, sounded pretty sure that Ward was going to be able to go. Now he's listed as questionable. Has there been any change is what Shanahan was asked, and according to the 49ers head coach, he said that there hasn't really been any change, that Ward was able to participate fully in today's practice. It was only half speed, so not a full speed practice today as they wrap up their practices out in Santa Clara. But Charvarius Ward is listed as questionable. I think that's a big piece of information for the 49ers, especially throughout this season. This is feet, ankles, leg injuries, those kind of things sometimes have a tendency to linger around. When it comes to Charvarius Ward, too, one other thing to think about here is he dealt with injuries last season. If you remember, he got injured in the game out in Atlanta. He went down with an injury in that game. He came back the following week, coming off of that injury against the Kansas City Chiefs, and he struggled. And he struggled bad in that game against the Kansas City Chiefs. He had a poor performance in that one. So just something to think about. Also, when it comes to Charvarius Ward, he's going to be matched up with a lot, I think, with some of the best receivers. Deontay Johnson, one of the top receivers for the Steelers. The other name to pay attention to is George Pickens, and that's the one that you really don't want to see Ward have to get matched up on, especially if he's dealing with something with his lower body, like his heel. If he's not able to go full speed, George Pickens, big wide receiver out of Georgia, in his second year now in Pittsburgh. This is a guy who can burn it down the sidelines. Big, tall guy. They're willing to throw up some 50-50 balls in his direction and let him see if he can go get it. So that's something to kind of keep an eye on here. We know last year, like I said, he struggled, did Charvarius Ward, against the Kansas City Chiefs, coming off of an injury the week prior out in Atlanta. We also saw him struggle against the Seattle Seahawks in the playoffs, in particular in that wild card game. A couple of deep balls down the sidelines where he gave up a touchdown. Gave up a couple of big plays. So just a little something to think about in this game as you get ready with Charvarius Ward, listed as questionable for the 49ers against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Also listed as questionable, tight end George Kittle. Kittle's been dealing with a groin injury. He's listed as questionable. He hasn't missed a day of practice this week. He's been out there every day. However, they still have him listed as questionable. This one isn't quite as concerning. I think you're going to see him play the full game. I don't expect to see him take plays off. Watching him run around the field yesterday, catching passes out of practice, I didn't get the sense that he was nursing any injuries at all. He looked like he was full speed, able to get down the field, make those receptions from the quarterbacks, in particular working with Brock Purdy. So George Kittle also listed as questionable in this game against the Pittsburgh Steelers for the San Francisco 49ers. A couple of other 49ers injury-related pieces of information. Ray McCloud. Remember, Ray McCloud injured his wrist just a few weeks ago. At the time of the injury, which took place right before the 49ers went out to Las Vegas, the expectations was that McCloud was going to miss possibly up to 8 weeks. Well, McCloud is back early. According to Kyle Shanahan today, he is good to go. This is a big piece for the 49ers offense because McCloud can return the ball in the return game. He's also the protege of understudy to Deebo Samuel in terms of what he can do as a receiver and as a runner out of the backfield. Same thing kind of with Ronnie Bell as a rookie, but I think they would rather have those duties handled by Ray McCloud if possible. No word today from Shanahan on who is going to be handling the return duties. He was non-committal, didn't say it was going to be McLeod, didn't say Bell, didn't give a name as far as who the returner would be. So Raymond McLeod looks like he is good to go. Another one that looks good to go, Talanoa Hufanga. Hufanga missed practice yesterday for personal reasons. He was back today. He is listed as good to go. He is expected to play the entire game on Sunday for the 49ers against the Steelers. Also, one other name, Jake Moody, the 49ers rookie kicker, everybody's favorite, the third-round draft pick. Everybody loves him because of the fact that he was taken in the third round. Jake Moody, according to Kyle Shanahan, he is good to go. I would expect to see Jake Moody being the one handling the kicking duties for the 49ers on Sunday out in Pittsburgh. We'll see how the rookie handles that. We know that he struggled a little bit in the preseason game out in Las Vegas. He struggled in the preseason game here at Levi Stadium. Now, he missed that third game, due to the injury. So we'll see how that transfers over, if he's okay when they go out to Pittsburgh. They also have another kicker on board. They're going to be taking him with them, but I don't expect to see him be handling any of the kicking duties. I think it's going to be Jake Moody all the way. And again, like I said, the practice today was half speed. A couple of other things that also took place. Nick Bosa, his contract became official today. It had been announced prior, but as far as it actually becoming official, getting signed, all those good things, that happened today. The 49ers then also adding Nick Bosa to the active roster. So Nick Bosa no longer on that exempt list. He is now a member of the 49ers 53-man roster. To create room for Nick Bosa on that roster, the team released defensive end Austin Bryant. Not a big surprise here. That's kind of the way that I thought it was going to go. Austin Bryant, edge pass rusher, that's all he does. They keep Kerry Hyder. That makes more sense. Kerry Hyder, a guy that can work off the edge but also play inside. He's a nice, versatile player that can do both things. So that's good. So the 49ers right now have 4 defensive ends on their active roster. Nick Bosa, Colin Furl, Drake Jackson, and Kerry Hyder Jr. Those are their 4. And one other note, with Bryant off, he might go to the practice squad. He might not. We'll see what they decide to do there. The 49ers already have a pass rusher on the practice squad in rookie Robert Beal Jr. So we'll see the direction that it goes there. There is a possibility that Bryant gets added to the practice squad, as M. Patel says here. Bryant will go on the practice squad. We'll see the direction. First, right now, they released him. We'll see what happens. If he clears through waivers, nobody picks him up. He could revert back to the 49ers practice squad if he decides to sign there. We'll see what happens with Austin Bryant, a guy that I felt did a really nice job. He was right on that roster bubble. I understand why he's not there. You look at the way that this roster is set up, it makes sense. You've got Bosa, you've got Drake Jackson. I think they're going to be your starters. I think Colin Furl and Kerry Hyder Jr. are your backups. I think we're going to see a lot of Colin Furl, so really keep an eye on him because he looked really good. I really like him as a player. He does a lot of good things. He's explosive off the edge in terms of getting after the quarterback. He also does a nice job of setting the edge in the running game. So they've got 4 strong there. Patel does say the little thin at defensive end. I agree. They have 4. You play 2 at a time. So that's not bad. Kalia Davis, Red Eye, is still on the roster. Kalia Davis, though, is a defensive tackle, not a defensive end. So he's a defensive tackle. I wouldn't expect to see him be active on Sunday. That'd be a little bit of a surprise to me if Kalia Davis is active. I think in order for him to be active, he'd have to be replacing either Kevin Givens or Javon Kinlaw. So we'll see the direction that they take there. Also have another question coming in from Jason Ornelas, who says, we going to go for Chandler Jones or what? I don't think so. I don't think he fits the 49ers. We'll see how that all plays out, but I don't think they're going to go after Chandler Jones. I think the 49ers like what they have at this moment on the edge. Obviously, that can change in the blink of an eye, so we'll keep an eye on that for you for sure. Other news today, Kyle Shanahan was asked about the 49ers playing at nickelback. As far as that goes, Kyle Shanahan, playing coy, non-committal at all, says that they're not sure what they're going to do at nickel. I can assure you that it's Friday. The first game is coming up in 2 days. The 49ers coaching staff and the 49ers players know who the starting nickel is going to be. Except for the one thing that could throw a wrench into that is the injury with Charvarius Ward. We talked about this yesterday. Some people got really upset with my title yesterday for my practice report. But again, this Ward deal, is an issue here, because if Traveris Ward is not able to go, even though they feel like he is, but if something comes up that say the heel acts up on this flight, who knows? Things happen. If Traveris Ward is not able to play on Sunday, that changes what the 49ers can do in the secondary. If Traveris Ward is healthy, he's good to go. That means you have some flexibility with the nickel. You could go with Diameter Lenore because you can bring Ambry Thomas out on to play that edge spot. Without Traveris Ward, then you might not want to do that so much, because then you're going to have Ambry Thomas already on the field on one side with Diameter Lenore on the other. Do you really want to bring Samuel Womack into that situation? So it's a little bit of an interesting conundrum there for the 49ers. Randall wants to know, should I play Kittle or my backup tight end Higbee? Randall, you're going to play George Kittle. Kittle's going to play. He's listed as questionable, but he hasn't missed a day of practice this week. He's been there all along. So I would say play Kittle in your fantasy team. Higbee, I like Tyler Higbee. He can put up some numbers too. So from that perspective, I'll say Kittle's going to play. We'll see what they can do. The 49ers are a tough team when it comes to fantasy because they spread the ball around so much, right? That's the problem. And so is Kittle going to get targeted enough to be your guy? We'll see what happens. One other thing, I already mentioned the release of Austin Bryant, the nickelback, a little unsure. As far as the Steelers go, they're in a good spot. They only have one player on their injury report this week, and that is defensive tackle Larry Ogunjobi. We'll see what happens there. The Steelers in a good spot in terms of most of their roster, but Larry Ogunjobi is right now listed as questionable. If he's unable to go, it looks like it's going to be a third-round draft pick from last season to Marvin Leal, replacing Ogunjobi at that defensive end spot. So just kind of keep an eye on that. You look at this Steelers defense across the board. It's really nice. Ogunjobi, Cameron Hayward, T.J. Watt, especially that Hayward and Alex Highsmith. You know, they line up a lot on the same side together. Highsmith as that right outside linebacker. Hayward lines up a lot on that right side over the tackle or over the guard, on that side. They're lined up together. That's a really tough matchup. I think you watch the 49ers, and I know there's a lot of talk going into this game. We'll talk about this more on Sunday during the pregame show, but there's going to be a lot of focus on what happens out at right tackle with Colt McKivitz. I say in this game, Colt McKivitz against TJ Watt, that's definitely a tough matchup. It's almost maybe even a little bit tougher on the other side. The good part is, because over there you've got Alex Highsmith, 14.5 sacks last year. Cameron Hayward, 10.5 sacks last year. Really good guys getting upfield. That's going to be stress on Trent Williams and Aaron Banks, sometimes even a little bit working over Jake Brendel. So, that's a tough matchup there, I think, for the 49ers. This offensive line was on the channel earlier today speaking with Larry Kruger, the Krug and Hammer and Krug show. And one of the things I mentioned was Brock Purdy and his role in this whole thing, because you're going to have this really good pass rush coming at you. They're sending these guys. They get to the quarterback quite a bit. And I think a lot of this is going to come down to Brock Purdy and his ability to get the ball out of his hands quick. If I was putting the game plan together for the 49ers this week, I would be putting together a plan in which you're really utilizing the passing game as an extension of the running game. A lot of short throws, get the ball out quick, beat that rush, try to get your run game going on top of it. Some play action boots, easy throws like that. And then every once in a while, maybe take a shot. But even those shot plays are going to come off of a quick 3-step type of a drop. So it's going to be an interesting matchup all around. I disagree with you on this one, Jason. You say the Watt is going to take poor Colton's lunch money. Kittle's going to have to help a lot. The help might have to happen, but I do think that Colton McKivitz is better than everybody's expecting. The 49ers have been able to be successful without when Colton McKivitz's been on the field. They're 2-0 with him starting, going back to 2021 in the game down in Los Angeles, and then last year up in at Levi's against the Rams again. It is going to be a tough going. He's going to miss some blocks. He's going to get beat at times. But I think we're going to come away from this game. I think people are going to come away feeling much better about Colt McKivitz as the starting right tackle of the San Francisco 49ers. Eric Pierce says, this game won't be close. We will score 35. Too much talent to be stopped on offense and D. This is going to be an interesting one. The 49ers offense hasn't put points up on the board very often. in week one under Kyle Shanahan, an average of only 16.7 points per game under Kyle Shanahan in week one. So we'll see how they do today, kind of going through that. And you look at those performances. Why is that happening? Well, last year, you look back to that first game against Chicago. They only scored 10 points, but they were in position to score a lot more than that. The first drive down, they're in nice position. You end up with a fumble from Deebo Samuel, no points on the board. Next possession, you have Tyler Kroft wide open. You overthrow him. It's a miss. No points off of that because the quarterback gets sacked a couple plays later, knocks you out of field goal range. So you get nothing there. Then you go to the second half. You had 10 points, you have 7 points on the board in the second half, but you're down there. You're in position. You have a guy open in the end zone. The quarterback doesn't throw it. He's looking at him, but doesn't throw it. Instead, he gets sacked. And they end up having to kick the ball there. So, you look at those plays, they only scored 10 points overall, but that right there is about somewhere around another 13 to 17 points that the 49ers could have picked up. Who knows, how those drives end up. But I would say, they were in position to probably score 23 points last year against the Bears, maybe even more if they just had cashed in when they got down into position to do it. So, it's not just last year either. You look at, like back in 2019 with Jimmy Garoppolo against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, struggling in that game, gets down. They score 17 points offensively, but he also throws an interception down in the red zone. At one point, he struggles through a few interceptions in 2018 that season. 2020, some mistakes by Garoppolo hinder that offense, and they only are able to score 20. So, I think when you look at this, if Brock Purdy is the guy who I think he is, I think the 49ers are going to be able to be a little bit better than that in terms of the number of points scored. I think 35, I think, is a little high, but especially against Pittsburgh on the road, week one, that number is just a little bit high. And then if it rains as it's supposed to, if the forecast holds, that could help drive those numbers down just a little bit as well. So we'll see, and then one last piece on this. I don't know if you guys saw this yesterday, but Deebo Samuel joined Kay Adams on her show, on her podcast, was asked about 49ers quarterback Brock Purdy. I don't know if you saw this, but it was interesting. She was basically asked him, what is it about Brock Purdy? What did you see in him that makes you believe in your starting quarterback? And Deebo Samuel saying, I got a glimpse of Purdy when he played Houston in the preseason, not knowing too much about him, him not getting too many reps with him, but it's just his attitude. He was never scared of the moment. When he came in and did what he did, I was kind of surprised. You never see guys come in and have that type of attitude, that type of swag and attention to detail. That's the big piece of it right there. A couple of things: the attitude, the swag, the attention to detail. The attention to detail being the biggest one, because when he had the opportunity, boom, he was ready to go. And I've talked about this before. Brock Purdy just brings an attitude with him. He's not a jerk. He's not one of those kind of guys, but he's a guy that believes in himself. And he shows that by the way that he celebrates. He scored, touchdown. He's pointing at his arm, pointing at the ice in his veins, pounding on his chest when he runs into the end zone. Those are positive things. He also will celebrate with his teammates and all those kind of things, but that ability to celebrate, that ability to feel like you're the man, I think that's a positive. I really do. I think that especially as a quarterback, you need to have as a quarterback, you have to exude confidence. That is the toughest position to play in all of football. The quarterback gets more of the praise than they deserve, and they get more of the blame than they deserve. It goes both ways. So at that position, you need to have a very thick skin, but you also need to have a lot of self-belief. You can't let that doubt creep in, because as long as you have that belief in yourself, you're going to be okay. And then where he finishes it off, he says, Deebo Samuel says, during a week in practice, the number 3 quarterback doesn't get any reps. His mindset of always being ready and the way he prepared to this day, it kind of amazes me. And Deebo, you're not alone. I think it amazes a lot of 49er fans the way that Brock Purdy was able to step in last year, take over the reins of the team, how the 49ers go basically winning their first 8 games, because I know the first one doesn't count as a start because Jimmy Garoppolo started the game against the Miami Dolphins, but he played all but the first series of that game, led the 49ers to victory against Miami, never lost until he got knocked out against the Philadelphia Eagles. And that Philadelphia Eagle game, I think, is a precursor to what we're going to see in terms of pass rush, good, strong pass rush. If you remember the way that game started before the injury, the first two passes out of Brock Purdy's hands, both completions, both quick, hit the back foot, get the ball out. I think that's what we're going to need to see from the 49ers on Sunday. We'll get into a whole lot more on Sunday before the game. Do this for me. Want to say thank you for everybody that's tuning in. You know, like I said, again, really quick, just running through the information in terms of the practice report for today. Charvarius Ward and George Kittle listed as questionable. Raven McLeod, good to go. Talanoa Hufanga, good to go. Same thing with Jake Moody. All of the 49ers are good to go. The only two that are questionable, Charvarius Ward, George Kittle. The Ward injury is the one that's the most concerning to me. But I think he's going to go. I'm just interested to see how he actually holds up in this game. And then the Steelers have Larry Ogunjobi, who is listed as questionable. Jeremy Price coming in real quick at the super chat. He says, Jack, what up? On a scale of 1 to 10, how pumped are you for Sunday? Niner gang, let's go. It'll be a pretty good season. Jeremy, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm at an 11. Crank that bad boy up to 11. There's got to be an 11 on there somewhere. Turn it up to 11. I'm excited. This is, for me, there's nothing better than when the team hits the field for the beginning of the offseason program, because you can actually watch them go and watch this team come together. So, for the reporters that have been able to be out to practice since May. So from May to June, we had a little bit, or May to now, we did have a month in there where there was nothing going on, but we've had a chance to be in Santa Clara watching this team come together. And I'm excited. This is my favorite time of the year. I much prefer the season to the off season. I get tired of the off season. I get tired of all the, throwing pasta up against the wall and seeing what sticks. I get tired of that kind of stuff. So I'm excited to actually be able to talk about real games and then come on, do film breakdowns and go over stuff with you guys and really talk about the X's and O's and all that kind of stuff. So very excited. Like I said, Jeremy, on an 11 right now. Thank you very much for your super chat. I appreciate that. If I could speak, man, these shows would be so much better if I could talk, especially when it's a speaking medium, right? So there you have it. Take it for what it's worth. Couple of guys on the 49ers questionable. Nick Bosa, his plan, not quite known. Brock Purdy, a lot of positive words on Brock Purdy from his teammates, in particular, Deebo Samuel. So thank you all so much for taking the time to tune in. If you could do me a favor, hit that like button. After you do that, subscribe to the channel. And then after you subscribe, turn on your notifications so you don't miss any of the updates right here on Inside the 49ers. I will be on tomorrow. I won't be live, but there'll be a couple videos that'll be up. So make sure you check those out. And then be here about 8:45 on Sunday morning before the game. If you're on the West Coast, 8:45, 11:45 if you're on the East. And we will get our pregame show in, get you all ready to go for week 1, 49ers, Steelers. Thank you all so much for taking the time to tune in, like I already said. But I'll say it again. And as M. Patel says, smash that like button. Thank you all so much for taking the time to check it out. Appreciate it. We talk with you soon.